Okay, so we're now ready to print this. We've got our 3 layers. We've got it kind of set up the way we think we want it to work. But again, remember, we're translating this digital file into a handmade thing that we're going to hand stencil. So it's going to have to be something that we're going to need to kind of be prepared to improvise with, a little bit flexible when we get it out of the machine. But the first thing that we want to do is we want to turn off our 2 colored layers, right? So the red and the blue layer, we want to turn those off because that's actually not something we want to have print on this at the first. We want to make sure that we're just printing the digital image. So this is what we're going to print out on our piece of paper digitally with a laser printer. And then we're going to add the colors on top of it with a hand process. So just with stencils and brushes. So what you're going to want to do now is you're going to want to go ahead and do what I did there, which is just select the right layer, turn off the eyeballs on the other 2, right? And then we're going to go up here to File, and we're going to go to Print, or Command P. So you want to select that, and that's going to bring up a printer dialog box. And again, this is specific to the printers we have here at SPU in the lab. So if you're printing this at home or somewhere else, you're going to have a whole other set of dialog boxes there. But this should at least give you the gist of it no matter where you print. And you just want to make sure you select the right printer. If you have like a home printer like I do, you could select that one. So make sure we have the right one selected. And then you'll see here there are all these options, right? And there's a ton of things that you can do. You can adjust the color, you can adjust all of that. But and the size, which is not something we want to mess with, we want to leave it at our 7.5 by 10 size. So we're going to print this on 8.5 by 11 paper. So you want to go to Marks and Bleed, and we want to turn on the trim marks, which shows us where, we want to turn on the trim marks, which shows us just where we're going to cut this out, so it's a bleed. And we also want to make sure you print the registration marks. That's super important that you print that out. So once you do that, you can go through this and check it all over if you want to. There's the graphics, there's all of these different things. Color management, you can change that if you don't like the way this is printing after you've printed 1 or 2. Again, and if you want to change the size, if the size isn't right, you can just continue in here and you can make sure we have a letter selected. But we definitely want to print by 8.5 by 11. And if you look, you can see that this has, everything fits. So we have these little hatch marks over here that are fitting. So now I'm just going to send this to the printer, and it's going to send it to the printer. And if you've printed at SPU before, you've gone through this a million times. But you just want to make sure you select the right account and click Print, and it'll go. And it'll hold it for you in a queue. So I've printed my 1 layer. Now, if you're going to do an addition of these, you're going to probably want to print like 3 to 6 of them to make sure that you get 3 really good ones to turn into us, because the idea is we're going to addition them. So I'd do that here. I'd just go in and hit Command P, and I'd make sure I put like 6 copies here. So once you're done, once you have those out, then you want to just print. We're only going to print our layers we're going to stencil. So I just want to make sure I only turn on the blue layer. That's the only thing that's visible. I'm going to hit Command P again. I'm going to make sure that I have all of this stuff set up correctly, and as long as I see that my registration marks are there, which is super important, we're just going to click Print on that. And again, it'll go through the same process where we say, print, and okay. And then lastly, we're going to go in and do our 3rd layer, right, which is the red layer, only the red layer. I'm going to click Print on that. We're going to make sure all of that stuff is set up correctly. We haven't changed the size at all. We're going to click Print there, and again we'll walk through the same thing. So now what we'll do is we'll go and we'll get all 3 of these out of the printer, and it's basically printing out the color separations for us, right? So we have these colors separated, and all we have to do is cut these stencils out, and then we'll be able to print as many of those as we want by hand, and it'll give us a whole different look than what we would have gotten if we just run this through the printer manually. So that's the gist of the digital part of this project. Now we'll move on to the tutorials that are more like hands-on, where you cut the stencils out by hand.